All right, all right. It is April 1st. Can you believe that? April 1st, first quarter is over. As far as real estate is concerned, that's a big news. And there has been a lot of changes. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes to see some people coming in. Nobody's on right now, but it takes time and I'm getting warmed up. I'm excited to be here today as viewers are coming on, whether you live or if you come on later on after the YouTube video starts and loads on my channel. This is Mike Patel. I have an interesting and special guest today. I'll introduce to you in a few minutes. But our topic today is the Housing Reality Check 2025. So I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. But hope you can hear me, you can see me. So before we get started, I want to introduce to you John, the Realtor. I've known John for 4 or 5 years. We've done transactions together. John's very up to date on the real estate market and trends, not only locally, he works in the high desert area all the way down to the Inland Empire. So John, why don't you take a few minutes, introduce yourself, and then we'll get started on our hot topic today. So take it away.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mike, for having me on. I appreciate it. It's always good to talk to you and always visit with you and catch up.
Right,
through time. Every year it's a different conversation, but it's always nice to hang out with you. Yeah, my name's John. I've been in real estate. I've had my license since 2007, January 2007. So I was right in the middle of the fun era, as we all like to call it. And just been, took a little bit of a break in between, but I've been active for 11 years back into it. And, just try to be as aggressive as I can and try to live up to this interesting time.
Right. So. Cool. Okay. Nice. Okay. Well, here's what we're going to cover today. What I like to cover today, obviously, we want to find out the 2025 housing market reality check. What I mean by that is one of the most common questions I've been asked over and over constantly for the last 6 years, starting 2019, actually 2018. I'll count it officially 2019 is, when is the crash coming? John, have you heard that question or have people asked you that question? When is the crash coming?
All the time.
When? Since when?
Yeah, all the time since the pandemic, all the time.
Yep, all the time. And guess what? We hear it again today. When is the housing market crash coming? Well, I got good news for you. It is coming. It is coming, but I personally don't think it's coming this year. It could be 2026, could be 2027, could be 2035. I don't know. Nobody has predicted this crazy market. Housing market has been going up since 2010. Never ever happened, as far as I know, the history goes. Never has the real estate market been so hot for so long. Usually there used to be cycles. I know people used to talk about cycles. Hey, 8-year cycles, it goes up, and 8-year it goes down. John, I'm sure you heard about that. This time it's going up and up and up and up. And I don't see any end in sight. Maybe next year, maybe 27, but I don't know. One thing's for sure, it's not happening this year. But here's some of the things I want to cover in our topic. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Put it in the comment section if you're live, and if you're watching a recording, put questions that we'll be glad to answer. A couple of questions we're going to ask, and specifically for the sellers, is that, or what you're going to learn is this a good time to sell if you're thinking about selling? Because a lot of the sellers, as you know, John, a lot of them have those locked interest rate at 2 or 3%, and they're not moving. Golden handcuffs, they're not moving. So now they may be thinking, let's sell if the prices drop and if the rates drop, right? So that's another question. Number one, if you're a seller, is this a right time to sell? Are the rates going to drop? And then what are experts predicting? So those are the 2 or 3 things I'm going to cover. So before we get started, I wanted to see, if you're a viewer, of course you're a viewer, what are your biggest concern? So drop it in the comments. We'll be glad to answer. So I'm going to start with sharing a screen, okay? And this is coming from not me or John. It's coming from experts, and we're here. We're not here. We're not economists. We're not predicting anything. We're just trying to make sense of what could happen, what could not happen, and if it does happen, why it could happen and when. Of course, nobody knows about the time. So I'm going to share my screen quickly and share this screen. I'm sure you can see it. Let me see. Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, let me go to it. Let's see, which one is it? Okay. It says, when will the housing market crash? Economists don't foresee it in 2025. This is written by Molly Grace from Business Insider, and this is just a few weeks old. Actually, it was as of March 14, 2025. So it's pretty current data. And of course, data changes, but real estate data changes quarterly or every 6 months. So this is recent data. Experts overwhelmingly say that the housing market isn't going to crash anytime soon. That could be that could be 3 years. I mean, that's how they write these articles. It's a catch 22.
Mm-hmm.
The last housing crash helped cause today's lack of supply, which is what's keeping prices from falling. Let me read that again because I didn't quite get that. The last housing crash helped cause today's lack of supply. John, you have any idea what they're talking about there?
Well, the last housing crash was what, 2008, right? Middle of
Exactly.
2008,
Right.
2009. That
Mhm.
was like the 2009 was like the dip of the bottom of the barrel, right? So
Yep.
2010 everything started coming up, but helped cause today's lack of supply. I don't know if that's accurate, and I'll tell you
Exactly.
why. Uh,
Right.
what did the pandemic do, which was only a few years ago, right? It was
Hmm.
4 years ago that even in my area, we had 300 listings in a market that generally had 1,700 listings.
Right.
So what does that tell you? So yeah, I'm not quite sure what they mean by that, but I don't
Exactly.
know
Me
about
neither.
I don't know
Yeah.
about the last house. Maybe the last housing crash to them was the pandemic, which I don't think it was.
Right. Right. And
So
one of the reasons I brought this question up, especially if you're watching, is the reason I brought it up is what you hear on the news, whether you're watching Fox News, CNN News, ABC News, CBS News, TikTok News, Instagram News, whatever you're watching, take it with a grain of salt, or what do you call it? Don't believe it, because today's news is not news anymore.
right,
Today's news is swaying you to a certain thing, either red, blue, or purple, or pink. Not getting political here, but today's news is freaking not news at all.
yep,
So if you believe that one channel said rates are coming down and the next one says rates are going up, which the news channels always contradict each other because it's a whatever, not getting political. Don't believe the news. Absolutely
who
don't. And
right,
that's
who's
why we're
right and
having
who's
this.
wrong?
What was that?
Who's right and who's wrong? You
Exactly.
know,
So if you do read an article, be careful who and confirm it with somebody. Ask somebody. You can always ask your local realtor or your local lender, and ask for resources. We don't know either if a crash is coming or not. It is coming. I can guarantee you that. I just don't know if it's going to be next year or 10 years from now. So, but the crash
hmm
is coming sooner or later.
absolutely.
Okay.
At
And the
some
third
point,
thing it says here is that the mortgage rates, however, are expected to ease in 2025. This could help make homeownership more affordable. And that's true. The rates have dropped. In fact, my lender just texted me today that, hey, did you know that the rates dropped on Friday? Which they did. And we'll look at one of the pages on interest rate, on where they are headed and why mortgage rate drop is so important, not only for the buyers but also for the sellers, because a lot of sellers are hanging in with their 3 or 4 or 5% and not selling at 7% or buying at
mhm,
7%. So thanks to elevated mortgage rates and high home prices, it's been a tough couple of years for home buyers. Home prices are up 2.6% year over year, according to Zillow, and many housing market forecasters expect them to continue trending up through 2025, though likely at a slower pace than in recent years. So here we have these experts predicting a home increase and rate drop. So, like I said, let's talk about the thing. The first thing is, John, if there's somebody who's a seller, right? And we
mhm.
just thinking out loud, what if you're a seller? Let's take your example. Let's say pretend you want to sell and buy something and you have 4%. You know, what are your thoughts coming to your mind on a consumer level, not as a realtor level, at a consumer level?
Well, if I'm a seller, my biggest concern, I sold my house in 2023, thinking that at that time, thinking that we hit even for myself, I thought, we're hitting a good stride on values right now. It's a good time to sell. So for me, it was, what's my interest rate going to be? Number one. Number
Mhm.
two, where am I going to go? At the time, we wanted to move out of state. So For
Right.
me, it was, it was like, well, we'll rent for a year, and we've stayed where we're at, and we're comfortable. And the thing is, for me, I'm not afraid of buying with the rates that we have now because I know that I can refinance later. So it's just a matter of adjusting on that pricing, and adjusting on my payments, and what I need to do in order to purchase a home. But that would be my first question. Where am I going, and what's my payment going to be? That would be
Right.
my first question.
Yeah. Yeah. What would be the chances if you're in California and if you're mid-age, 40, 45, up to 60, 65? I'm not talking
Uh-huh.
about the youngsters, that you would stay in California versus go out of state.
Yeah,
What
I
would be the
think.
reason for that?
Yeah, I think there's. So here's the thing with staying in California or going out. I think there's exceptions to every rule, and what I mean by that is, if I'm someone who, I'm retiring, maybe I'm my early 60s, I can retire early, and I'm getting a good pension, and maybe I sell my house in LA County, Orange County, somewhere else, and I can buy a home cash,
Mm-hmm.
and retire. Then maybe I'll stay in California because I love the weather.
Right.
Or maybe if I'm a little older and I want to retire, and maybe I don't have a home that's paid off and I cannot buy cash, and I have a pension, then maybe I'm going to look at other states where I can save a little money on my mortgage, where it makes a little more sense for me to go and purchase. So it really just depends. I think, especially in this market
Mm-hmm.
and the market we've had for the last few years, it's it's always a situational. It's a situational thing, right? So
Right.
depending on what my situation is,
Right.
that I'm going to choose to go and move in a specific direction
Right.
based on that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's always situational. Divorces, health issues. Kids going towards grandma, grandpa, or grandpa and grandma, health issues going towards their kids because kids say, "Hey,
Right.
we're not coming every month to see you, grandpa, grandma, or mom and dad. Come stay with us.
Yep.
We'll get you an ADU or whatever." So it is very situational.
Yep.
And the good news is somebody maybe getting a promotion, somebody may getting a pay raise, somebody may take their company. I just sold a house yesterday, well, actually closed today. The people are moving from Canada, moving the company over here,
Oh wow.
$1 million company moving over here. So it's situational, like you said. They moved to California, they paid high, but they saw that Canada is for their industry, whatever the industry is. And I'm not going to
Hmm.
mention that because private clients privilege. Their industry is going down in the sense they want to grow bigger, they want to scale, right?
Right.
They thought coming to California they can increase their business in the next 5 years. They could be 10 times versus double in Canada. So it's a good move.
Hmm.
It's a good happy move, and they're happy.
Yeah.
They know they pay the high price. They know they're going to pay much higher price for gas, but they also know they're going to do much more business.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so
And I
they,
think, yeah. And I think, look, at the end of the day, there's people that, they'll move out of California and they'll say, I want out, I want to leave, but then there's people that want to come because, maybe they've been on vacation a long time ago, and like I said earlier, they see the weather, they see the location, they see
Mhm.
everything. And maybe maybe they want to come in. So,
A lot of people are
yeah.
coming in. There's a net migration is negative for California. Last year it was 3 or 4 or 5% negative, but for the million people that moved, half a million moved in.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's not
Yeah.
like it's all doom and gloom. Yes, California has its issues, but hey, I'm not going to go to uh, let's say Nebraska, because I had a lot of hailstorms, and it's one of the highest insurance states that's high insurance because of hailstorms. Did you know
Right.
that? Yeah.
Yep. I sure
Yeah.
did. Yeah. Just
So
like
and
any
I'm
other
just
state.
throwing out a number. My
Yeah.
niece is in Nebraska. There's nothing bad about Nebraska, but I'm just or I'm not going to Montana where I freeze 60 degrees and the heater goes on in my house. So, I'm not going there, but that's my personal preference. So
Yeah. There
yeah,
you go.
right, right. So I want to talk about a little bit about what just happened in quarter one. We talk about the rates are still high. Let me let me see here. Let me bring another. Yeah, let me bring this screen and that talks about because everybody's thinking about interest rate, right? It is the key thing right
Right.
now. Let me share that screen again. Sorry. Stop screen share. Okay, and the reason I want to bring this up, it's very important because everybody's talking about interest rate, and I'm going to read this. You can see the screen here.
Hmm.
It says here NARS, which is the National Association of Realtors, Lawrence Yun, he's the economist for NAR, projects 6% mortgage rates and home sales growth this year, which is kind of good because it says here that mortgage rates will dip to about 6% and home sales will grow about 9% to 13% in 2025. Now, keep in mind, this is home sales, not home prices. They expect an increase in home sales anywhere from
Hmm.
9% to 13%. National Association of Realtors chief economist Lawrence Yun said during a meeting in Chicago. And this was just very recently in February. Then he further keeps on going that just like a year ago, market data indicates about 2 or 3 rate cuts in the coming months, and mortgage rates could hit 6% by end of 2025. So let's talk about this a little bit. What has happened in quarter 1 as far as the interest rate goes? John, what do you think has happened or that has helped the housing market, not just California, but nationwide?
Well, I think in quarter 1 they were a little steady. You know, we had a little bit of an uptick towards, I believe it was in February. There was like a little bit of an uptick, and then it came back down. And then now with them kind of settling a little bit, they deflated a little bit. I believe the last couple weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's going to help. But here's the thing, you know, yeah, they talked about the rates coming down this year over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I believe it's all going to be based on, not getting political. I believe it's all going to be based on what happens coming out of Washington and coming out of the international front. You know, I think that's going to continue to affect the overall economy, and of
Uh-huh.
course that's in turn going to affect the interest rates as well.
Correct.
Um, I like I said though, I think the first quarter we had a good little steady market with a little bit of increase decrease over time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but we're holding steady, which is good.
Right. And it has gone down. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
January what they were like over 7%, I believe, and now they're.
Yes.
We'll take a look at it. Short. In fact, let's take a look at it.
Sure.
Let me go to mortgage. Might as well since we're talking about it. So I'm going to take
Yeah.
this out again. Bear with me when I stop screen share, and I'm not an expert on sharing screens, but let me see which screen do I want. I want the mortgage. All right, let's share this. This is important. So
Absolutely.
okay, here is today. This is as of March 27th. Okay, I lied. It's as of Friday, I believe. Primary mortgage market survey. This is from Freddie Mac, which is they're not. It's not a bank rate or it's a general rate. So primary mortgage 30-year fixed is 6.65. 15-year is 5.89. So if
Convention,
you
is that
look at,
conventional?
yeah, this is conventional fixed.
Conventional. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. If you look at here, let's go back 5 years or let's go back 3 years. See the rates here let me see. Did I go? How far back did I go? December 23 was 7.79. Lowest, if you look over here, September 19th, it was 5.15%, 15 years, and
Hmm.
6.09% 30-year fixed,
Right.
right? As of March 27th, it's 6.65. So it is still lower than the peak over here, which was, when was this? This was in May 2024. So we have come down quite a bit. We're over here. We hope to get down, further down,
Right.
right? And if you just go 1 year ahead, like back in April last year, April 25th, they were at 7.2. So if
Hmm.
we count today, 1 year later, we're down here. We're down almost what? Almost half a point, maybe more
Yes.
than half a point,
Right.
which is good news because what that does is it improves the affordability of the buyers who have been waiting.
Yep.
And if you're a buyer, please don't wait. If you're ready, willing, and
Hmm.
able to buy, please buy. Don't chase the market because
Absolutely.
I've had buyers tell me, and I'm sure, John, they've told you, and everybody in your office and my office, I'm going to wait till the market crashes. I'm going to wait till, well, guess what? What makes you the expert? How do you know it's going to drop? And
Yeah.
furthermore, I always say, hey, I hope it does drop for you. I hope it drops to 5%. But here's a big but. The Trump administration is laying off people, government workers, VAs, USAID,
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. But regardless of that, right? What if your company is panicking, whether you work for a big company, Apple, Google, Walmart, McDonald's, whatever? What if you lose a job? Prices came down, home prices came down. Now you or your wife or your spouse or your brother that buy together loses a job. What are you going to do?
Right.
So I always tell buyers, buy when you are ready, willing, and able. That's my three words I always use. Don't chase the market. Right now, if you're
Absolutely.
paying rent, you're not getting tax write-off. You're not settled in. You're paying your landlord's mortgage. So the bottom line is paying somebody's mortgage. But I'll leave it at that. you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
So anyway, so going back, it says quarter um, rates. Rates are still high, but they have dropped. What about inventory, John? What's happening with inventory, not only in the desert area, but what do you think has happened nationwide on average? Of course, market is hyper local. Let's talk about that. And I have a chart I'm going to show you, but let's just chat about the inventory while we're
Well,
talking.
yeah, I'll talk about my market specifically.
Okay.
This time last year, we had, I believe we were at, if I'm not mistaken, around 800. So when I talk about the high desert, for those that are familiar with the high desert, cities like Victorville, Hesperia, Apple Valley, I don't just mean those three cities. When we look at our valley, our high desert valley, we go all the way from Wrightwood, California, and we look at our entire circle of desert, okay, all the way out to Lucerne Valley, Phelan, up to Barstow, and then back down. Okay, so
Mhm.
there's several cities there included. So right now we are, as of last week, we are at 1,300 and I believe 83 or somewhere around there homes on the market, and that's up. It's not necessarily what we like to call a we're kind of in a normal market. Usually we're between 16 to 1,700 homes. 1,300 is for right now. It's a lot. But here's the thing with inventory: homes are moving, homes are selling. Despite the values being where they are, the values are up a little bit. But with the homes selling,
Mhm.
it's telling you that buyers are not afraid of the interest rates because housing is always going to be a necessity. We always have to purchase homes. Yes,
Correct.
rentals are out there, but everybody's going to need somewhere to live.
Mhm.
So you're always going to have that trend there, to purchase. So
Mhm.
inventory for us is up, but again, values are not dropping right now. And it's
Okay.
still a seller's market because of the difficulty, and not all markets, I'm just talking about mine, but because of the difficulty to qualify at 6.65 or in the sevens if you're FHA, VA, that's it's harder to qualify these days.
Right.
So your inventory, yes, is up, but the values are also steady as well, as you
Mhm.
can see.
Right. Right. Okay. And what's your DOM, days on market, in general, kind of on average compared to,
Yeah,
let's
right
say, a
now,
year ago?
right now, as of last week, our average days on market is 39 days on the market.
Okay. Is that more than before, or has it lower, or what?
Actually, it dropped. So over the last 8 weeks, it's kind of fluctuated between 51, and then we were in the 40s, low 40s, and then mid 40s, and then last 2 weeks ago we were at 43, and now we're at 39. So it fluctuates, but I'd say it's going to stay right around the 40s for now.
Mhm.
Yep,
Okay. Okay. So they're
which is
selling. They're
good.
not sitting for 90 days out panic, but at 30 days, 40 days, that's a good market. And remember, we went through a
Exactly.
lot of rain. We went through some changes, like it rained yesterday. So, agents don't want to show in the rain, at least in Orange County, right? So they're not
Yeah,
used to it. So,
exactly.
right, right. Okay. So the question is, and of course, we're thinking out loud together here, is if inventory is up, which is not a panic, it's just a little bit up, but that's good news,
Mhm.
because if I'm a buyer, that's good for me, because now I got 10 homes to watch rather than 3 homes to watch and make a decision, right? uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
so so, um but what I'm hearing is, yes, interest rates have dropped, inventory has gone up, same thing in Orange County, but homes are selling within 30 days, right?
Yep.
I just got an offer accepted today. I just showed it again. What happened was, my clients had seen this at an open house a month ago. They were asking for 1.2,
Hmm.
and they didn't say anything about it. I said, do you like it? They say they like it, but they let it go. So I didn't bother them. These are my very good clients. Thursday, they called me, hey, Mr. Patel, I'll pretend they call me Mr. Patel. We want to write an offer on that house. I said, which house? The one we saw a month ago. I said, why? Because they dropped it $100,000. So I
Hmm.
called them to make sure it's available and say, yeah, we have two offers. So if you want to come in aggressive, but they're not near full price, because I asked him, are they near full price after the drop? So we wrote an offer 25,000 less than the asking price after the drop, which was $100,000, and we just got it.
Yeah, I mean,
So buyers are very sensitive in the sense they are looking at what's happening. They didn't pay the price. They didn't think, hey, inventory is low. Homes are selling in 3 weeks. They say, you know what? This house ain't worth 1.2, and they waited. So now they're getting it 100,000, $125,000 cheaper. But
mhm.
guess what? We went to see it again today just to make sure, because they saw it a month ago, and I saw it a month ago as well. And we noticed some things this time where it needed some repairs and things. Of course, I'm doing an inspection on Wednesday. And guess what? I already talked to my buyer. We're going to ask for $5,000 or $10,000 credit. And guess what? They'll give it to us. It's a trust sale. It's a vacant house. The trustee don't want to rent it out. They're up in Washington or somewhere, and they want out. And these kids are getting their house. It's $1 million house.
Mhm.
So kids can afford to lose 10, 15 grand on repairs.
Right.
The market is still good in the sense, yes, it's good, but the buyers, my point of saying that thing is, buyers are cautious, but they are returning. That was my whole idea of giving you that
Right.
example, that, hey, yes, rates have dropped. Yes, home prices are still going up. Yes, it's taking longer to sell. Yes, inventory is up, but buyers are smart. I don't blame them. They're being cautious. They're not just saying, hey, I'll take it, give me the price. Now they're going to ask for, if the sellers ask for full price, buyers want the house move-in condition or good condition. They're going to ask for repairs. They're going to ask for appraisals. They're not just going to say, I'll take it and spread, I won't go there, but they're not just, I was going to give a dog example, if I won't,
Yeah.
so.
No pandemic selling here. Not
Exactly,
anymore.
right, right. But do you see what I'm saying? That, and
Yeah.
buyers are smart, and I commend them that they're being smart, and they're not saying, "Hey, inventory is going up and this and this." They're being cautious, which is smart. So I want to show this chart. Can you see this chart?
I can.
Okay, so this chart, I'm going to make my screen bigger. This is from Keeping Current Matters. They do research. And of course, this just came out a few days ago. National housing trends. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, the housing activity or the trends in high desert is different from Orange County. So if you're in Texas or Florida or North Carolina, Georgia, yours might be totally different. Markets are hyper local. So these numbers are national numbers, they're averages. So it may not apply to you, or your numbers could be worse, could be better. So just keep that in mind. So, and John talked earlier about his inventory going up in the high desert area. Inventory, I think, is up everywhere nationwide, but nothing to panic, right? So it says here the supply of homes for sale is up 27.5%. This is comparing, by the way, this is comparing February to February, not comparing the whole year, the month-to-month comparison. So what happened in February in 24, and they're comparing February 25. It's
Right.
not whole year comparison. So just keep that in mind. So if I was looking at February, my inventory is up 27%. Let's look at what's happening to home prices. Again, this is from February 24, month-to-month comparison. Median sales price of existing homes, that means not counting brand new homes, is up 3.8%. Prices did go up. I heard reports last year that prices were going to go down in 2024 and this and that, but it actually went up. And then we were talking about time on the market, which is days on the market. On average, nationally, February last year, it took 61 days to sell. But this year, it took almost, I can't read it, but it's close to 66 or 86. It's up 8.2%. My screen is
I
not
think
big.
that's. I think that's 61 and 66 or
66.
68,
Right.
maybe
Okay. All right.
68. I don't know.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Regardless, it's
Yeah.
8.2% up. So we can see that the supply of homes is up. Home prices are up. Time to sell is up. But the home price is not dropping,
Right.
right? And the inventory is so negligible. I mean, 27% up remember we had severe weather in
Hmm.
the East Coast. In we had rain for 2 weeks, so I think
Right.
that is a factor which we don't consider or don't take into. But I think that 30%, and here's the thing to look at: 2024 was the lowest sales in the last 25 years. As far as number home goes, it's close to 4 million or less than 4 million in the last 25 years, since 1996, I believe, 30 years. But remember that one of the biggest reason these news medias and the experts won't tell you, if I go to a shop, John, I'll give you an example, and I'm selling pens, I usually carry 100 pens, right?
Hmm.
Usually sell 50 of them, right?
Right.
If you come to my shop tomorrow and if I have 25 pens because the manufacturer did not manufacture, will my sales be down, right? If
Yeah.
I only have 50
Absolutely.
pens for sale, I'll sell 50 pens. If I have 100 pens, I'll sell 100 pens. But because
Hmm.
the manufacturer, something happened, did not give me enough pens, my pen sales were down. Same thing with homes. There were not enough homes for sale on the market, so the sales,
Right.
right? Take that into consideration. So just because you hear, oh my God, lowest sales in 30 years, oh my God, pulling my no, it's because there's no
Yep.
inventory.
Yep. It
So
doesn't mean it's a bad. It doesn't mean it's a
no,
down market
absolutely
just
not.
because of
But
that.
the
Yeah.
news media wants you to believe that, right?
Right.
I'll give you another
Absolutely.
example. I read a report on Facebook, which I shouldn't believe, but this is a Facebook report on a page that talks about foreclosures and short sales. Okay.
Hmm.
Now we know that in 2008, inventory was this much and foreclosures was this much, right?
Yep.
In the last 3-4 years, foreclosures have been this many, right?
Correct.
So a couple of months ago, inventory went up this much. Guess what? The article was foreclosures double in the last 20 years.
Isn't it great how they write it?
So it's like a realtor. You know what? I had double my sales last year. Well, how many did you
Right.
sell last year? I sold one last year
Yeah.
and two this year.
To
I
this year.
doubled my production.
Sounds
Right?
good.
Sounds good, but it's
Hmm.
false. I mean, so
Yeah.
that's why we mentioned earlier, don't talk, when you look at these stats and all that, be careful what you watch and all that, it's kind of misleading, so
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
anything
Yeah.
you want to add on the inventory and the housing prices and what's happening in the market in general and what will take
Well,
us along this year?
I'll give you an example in my market, week over week. So this is last week was 317 through 323, and I'll give you 2 weeks before that, March 3rd through March 9th. Price reductions. We had 73 price reductions in our valley and 25 price increases. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The following week it was 69 and 32. So price reductions went down, increases went up. And then this last week we had 63, I'm sorry, excuse me, 64 price reductions and 36 price increases. So again, the price increases have steadily gone up and the price reductions have steadily gone down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, new listings, 2 weeks ago we had 98, and then this last week we had 113 new listings. So you can see the inventory is going up because, again, I think that people want to move, they want to take advantage of the equity they have. And then as buyers, they're going to go turn around and purchase because, again, you have to purchase a home, you have to have a place to live. So
Mm-hmm.
not everybody's going to sell and rent.
Right.
So
Right. Okay. So it's still what we call a active market. I mean, those changes are
absolutely.
not that significant. Um,
Yep.
so I want to confirm that in your whole area, at any given time, you have about 1,300 homes for sale. Is that what it is?
As of right now,
As
yes.
of right now, what's your
Yep.
typical? Typical is what about?
Um, from last year to this year, it's under 1,000, 800, 900, 1,000, somewhere around there.
Okay.
The 1,300, the 1,300 is sort of a more stable market for
Right.
us.
Okay.
I think we can even go a little higher. But again, it just means that it's selling. Where would become a buyer's market for us would be if the rates were down. If the rates were down with the amount of inventory that's out there, then it would switch to a buyer's market because at that point, obviously, the rates are down. There's more buyers for the inventory. So, but right now, what's very interesting about this market is that even though the inventories are higher than what we're used to last year, it's, sellers are still in control. So it's still a factor,
Mm,
because the buy, again, as I said before, it's harder to qualify. So if you can qualify for a house right now,
right.
I would advise my clients, don't wait assuming, because I've had clients that wanted to wait over summer in 2022, and then
Hmm.
by the time 2023 came out, the houses increased 25%. So it's like,
Right,
you
right.
have to buy. If you don't be afraid to purchase, that would be my advice to buyers.
Okay. I'm just replying to one comment quickly here. No problem. Okay. Okay, got it. Okay. So talking about all this inventory and the timing is taking, two things I want to talk about. Who's winning in the market? If you look at the seller's perspective, and I'm going to talk about the seller's perspective and then who's struggling. Okay. So so who's winning in this market? The market you just described as nationwide market is the one, and which means what kind of homes are selling and are selling at a market price or selling fast or selling on time. Number one is the move-in ready sellers, the sellers whose house are ready to go. If they're asking for $1 million, and I say $1 million because our average medium price is $1 million here. So if it's good condition, good location, nothing to fix, there's moving. Motivated investors, in fact, the house I
Yep.
just sold today, I told you about, is for rental. They're doing a 1031 exchange. So
Uh-huh.
they're motivated investors because they know that even though they're paying a high price, they're paying a good interest rate, they're still getting higher rents because the rents are still going up, especially
Right.
Southern California. And the fires did not help any because that pushed rents up a little bit. Sorry to say
Absolutely.
that, but facts are facts, right? And then the homes that are selling is those who have not just wild, crazy upgrades, but strategic upgrades. What I mean by that is I showed a house 3 weeks ago. It was listed for 3.4. And when you go in the backyard, the pool, the jacuzzi, the falls, this and that, the cabana, they had like $500,000 just in the backyard hardscape.
Mm.
That's not what I call strategic upgrade because once you buy that, it's going to depreciate. I'm talking
Right.
about it's got a nice paint, it's got crown molding, or it's got a nice stainless steel appliances, very practical upgrades that anybody can use. Because
Right.
I may love this house, I may want a pool. I don't want the cabana and the jacuzzi and the music and the fire blowing out of the things and all that. Those are what you call extraordinary upgrades. So
Right.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And then if we talk about who's struggling in selling their homes, it's the sellers. Like in Orange County, if a house is worth $1 million and your house is a fixer upper, buyers are not going to pay that. So those the sellers are struggling. And then the ones that are overpriced listings. Can you believe that even in this market, there are homes that don't sell and they what we call expire, or sellers get mad at the agents? Hey, John, hey, Mike, what are you guys doing? You can't sell a house in this market. Well, we've had 50 people, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, walk through your home. We had 20 people come on the first Saturday open house. After that, we have 30 more people, but no offers. Is it me or is it your house? I mean, we don't tell them to the sellers, but
Right.
even in this market,
Well,
and you know,
yeah, I think I think you communicate that in a professional way, obviously, but yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are trying to maximize price, which you absolutely should as a seller, but they're trying to um, price their homes based on pandemic pricing. And I tell sellers this all the time. We can't pandemic price, meaning during the pandemic, you could list your house with a cardboard box and you would sell it.
mhm.
You didn't even need a for sale sign, right? So there's a lot of people still trying to do that. So there are three things, in my opinion, that people have to look at. Number one is always going to be price. Always
Mhm.
going to be price. Um, I would love to say trust your agent and trust their expertise, because I can't speak for everybody else, but when I price homes, I price them strategically, and sometimes, depending on the condition, I come down a little bit because you have to be very careful on your price. That's number one. Number two, professional photos is everything. There's
Yeah,
still agents using cell phone shots, and you can tell. So professional photos and marketing is everything.
yep.
Beyond that, if you're priced right, and the home is, like you said, ready to go, it's going to sell itself.
It's gonna sell. Yeah, yeah. It's amazing how price is so important, followed by and basically what it boils down to, get your decluttering out, get your personal stuff out, make your house look decent. It doesn't have to be perfect, you know, HGTV
Right.
home. You know, make it look decent, make it look spacious. You know, get rid of. We all have junk. I mean, if you look at my room, I got a lot of junk because nobody's going to come here. But if I was going to sell it, the first thing I'd do is start packing and put some away, rearrange my furniture,
Right.
because I'm going to call a photographer, and they're going to see those pictures. And photography, along with video, is so important, you know. So
Yes.
you're
Yep.
absolutely right on that, you know. So the question is, if you were to sell your home today, what would you do next? Would you, I mean, make some comments, let us know. Would you sell and just rent, or would you sell and buy something else, or would you sell contingent about buying something, or would you sell and move in with the kids or your parents and then buy something and take your time? So let us know where you are, so that way we get an idea of what people are thinking, you know, home sellers are thinking, home buyers are thinking. And if you're a buyer, let us know, you know, why would you buy now or not buy. If you're one of those guys that has those questions, you know, when's the crash, because I won't be able to answer that, but we'll make a comment on it, you know.
Right.
So you know, so now let's go to the next step. Is what, and of course you and me, we're not economists, we're not predictors, but what should we look for? When I say we, whether you're a buyer or seller, you're a lender, you're a realtor or an appraiser, where are we headed? Are the prices going up? Are the prices going down? Are we coming to a recession or not? So let's kind of look at that. And to do that, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a screen, because I'm not going to make any prediction, I'm no expert, but let's share a screen.
Certainly can't do that these days.
No, yeah, but we can have some pointers, you know. So
Have
let's look
ideas.
at
Yeah.
bank rate. This article came out on March 11th, so it's pretty recent. It says here, housing market predictions, the forecast for the next 5 years. Wow. And of course, this could be wrong. And I mentioned earlier, you know, be careful who you believe. So I'm
That's
showing you
right.
this article because I use bank rate all the time to check rates and other things. I use their calculators and other things. So I kind of rely on them, but doesn't mean that you should believe it too. So let's get right into the real estate forecast for the next 5 years. As of today, which was March 11th, the roller coaster keeps on rolling. Housing inventory is growing, but still low. With prices and mortgage rates still high, the market seems to be thawing a bit, though the National Association of Realtors predicts existing home sales will be up 7 to 12% in 2025 and 10 to 15% next year. So they expect a lot of home sales. Okay, before we peer into our crystal ball, let's take a snapshot of how things stand currently. If a first time home buyer retreated to the sidelines during the last couple of years, the conditions are slightly better now, says Jessica Lutz, NAR's Deputy Chief Economist and VP of Research. There are fewer bidding wars for homes, and we're not starting to see more inventory come to the market. Interest rates have stabilized the job market. The job market is strong and home prices are still growing, but not at rates as high as before. So let's just chat a little bit before I read on to the next thing. In your neighborhood, let's start with your local and then I'll talk about mine. And of course, it could be different than Iowa and Idaho, but where do you see home prices based on activity? Of course, you know, based on what you know, and you talk to other realtors and all that in the desert area or the Inland Empire area.
Oh, I think for most markets in California, it's going to continue to increase. The where it says, where did it say increase in 2025? It said, what was the percentage?
It was about 7 to 12%. Let me double check.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
So
pretty
7 to
high.
12%. Yeah. 7 to 12%, and then 10 to 15% next year. And actually, speaking of Orange County, I have an interesting slide that I looked at, and
Uh-huh.
basically in Orange County, the median list price for homes for February 2025, it says 1.409. So 1.4, let's just call it 1.4 million. California average is 728,000. So I'll
Wow.
just give you an
Yeah.
example. In Victorville, our average, I believe, was around 470 at that same time. So you can see the kind of market we're in. You know, your average price point being 400. Let's just call it 400,000. you're gonna have homes no higher than maybe in the sixes in that city, right? Now, do we have $1 million homes up here? Yes, we do. Those take longer to sell, but I believe that in my market, yes, the price. It's again, and I say it like before, it's going to depend on the rates. If everything stays the way it is, and we come down a little bit, we're going to continue to rise, and those percentages are definitely achievable.
Right.
But it really just depends what will happen in the next year.
Hmm.
Call it through 2026 into 2027 in Washington. Depending on what happens there, that's going to drive everything. So,
Right.
but
Right.
it is
Yep.
possible,
It is
and I
possible.
do see that. Yeah, I do see
Yeah,
it happening.
yeah, and you're right. Our prices are high on Anaheim Hills. The last I checked, the medium home price was over 1.2. Of course, Orange County has Newport Beach and Huntington Beach and Irvine.
Right.
So
Yeah.
obviously the Orange County prices are higher. 1.4 listing price is pretty high. But I am seeing a slight increase in inventory. Our days on market, and I'm guessing in the Anaheim Hills area is about. It used to be about 30 days. It may be up a little bit, but at the same time, that was January, February, March. Going on, April, May, June is our peak time. It's our Christmas for real estate. So
That's right.
those may drop in the second quarter. Who knows?
Yeah.
But definitely the price, my not my prediction, my opinion based on what's happening. The last three escrows I have, I just closed two and I opened one. On all three, there were multiple offers. We had to write one or two or three offers before we got one. So there's multiple offers
Mhm.
going on, which tells me that inventory is still low. Even though it's higher than last year, it's still low. And based on activity, the prices are going to go up
Right.
in
Yeah.
2025.
And you mentioned something early in the conversation about people retiring, and it's interesting because I have another bit of information that if the viewers don't know, but in 2024 we had 4.1 million people turning 65. In 2025 it's 4.18 million people, and next year 2026 is 4.120. So we're steadily having, it doesn't go down into the 3 million range until 2030. So between now and the next 5 years, we're going to have 4 million people a year average turning 65. So that's why the prediction is like that, because they foresee that number of sales going up. So
So are you saying on a consumer level, if I'm a buyer or a seller, are you saying that because they are retiring, they may sell and move, or go to Florida or go to Arizona? A lot of
yeah,
Californians.
they can go to Northern California, and go to Florida. They can go to Texas. They can go anywhere, and
Right.
some of them will still. The ones that stay may downsize. Maybe I have a nice 3,000 square foot home, and I want to
Hmm.
retire in Del Webb and have a 1,500 square foot home and
Right.
downsize. And
Okay.
so that's something that I believe will happen. But again, it really is just going to depend on the situations.
Yeah,
So
I read a report last year, and I've mentioned it several times in my videos and also on this live stream, that if you look at the money that the baby boomers, that includes me, I'm a baby boomer. If you look at all the money in assets, which is cash, stocks,
mhm.
IRAs, 401ks, real estate properties, investments, you know how much money we're talking about? We're looking at trillions of dollars that the boomers have sitting there, and that's coming into the market because
Right.
baby boomer, as they go out to wherever they go, as they like the house I'm selling today. I told you it's a trust sale. I mean, I
Right.
don't know for sure, but I believe the owners died and the trust is having it, and the kids are in Washington D.C. and they don't want it. They're selling it. That's a 1.1 sale coming
Yeah.
into the market because of a boomer.
Well, and on top of that, I mean, you figure all those people between now and 2030, right? Purchased their homes between 1994 in the early 90s all the way through the 2000s, that were going to be turning 30. So for those people which by then you're going to have the baby boomers and the Gen Xers by then, that purchased their homes in the 90s, that you figure that's going to be more retirement and more, so for every generation that's going to come right behind them. But the boomers, yeah, it's happening. as we speak.
Yeah.
So
So on that note, the cruising business should be booming in the next 3, 4, 5 years. Not that it has been, but I guess it'll boom more, right? Because they're gonna go to cruises, right?
yeah, exactly. There you go. Start a cruise line. That's the
Yeah.
next business,
I
right?
should book one next year too, because I'm in that category too. So
There you
yeah,
go.
right,
I
right.
guess I
So
have time.
you got time. Yeah, yeah. So the other thing is, let's talk about which forces are in play right now. In other words, what's happening with the interest rate and the Fed policy. Let's talk about that. And like you mentioned earlier, we're not talking politics, and you mentioned tariffs. I think if there's something that's going to have a huge impact of everything that we've talked about, it's the tariffs. And I'll give you a case in point. Let's look at Florida specifically, then let's look at Arizona, then let's look at Texas. What has happened because of the tariffs, and I'm specifically mentioning Canada, forget Mexico and China and Europe with the steel and aluminum tariffs. I'm talking about Canada. What has happened, there's a big backlash. Number one, a lot of Canadians are saying, screw US. There is so many homes for sale right now. There's an oversupply of vacant homes from the Canadian sellers. Arizona, number one, number two, Florida, and number three, Texas, all these hot states. This is a case in point that's happening. That's a direct impact of tariffs. Another big thing that has happened in Florida, okay, is tourism is down anywhere from 20 to 40% because all the people who was going to come to Florida said, screw US. And guess where they're going? They're going to Bahamas, they're going to Caribbean. It's the same flight, 45-minute more flight. So there is a direct impact happening. And this tariff has just come into play a month ago. Imagine the impact a year later. And I'm not trying to be political. I'm just giving an example of one example that I read about. And I'm sure
Right.
there's other examples. But yes, tariff is having a big impact, not to mention the mass deportation. What's going to happen, and I'm going to talk about the other impact of tariffs also, but other thing that's happening of mass deportation, which has already taken place, it is actually companies in Florida. And I'm going to use the word construction company owned by white people whose all employees were Hispanics or immigrant or whatever.
Hmm.
There's several companies shut down because they have this
Right.
development going on and there's no workers.
Right.
In one of my videos, I actually put a video from a TikTok video where they showed the whole housing track 9 o'clock and nobody's there. No food
Mm.
trucks, no people working because they're all deported. So
Yeah.
this is a direct impact, and not being political at all. This is a direct impact happening as we speak. And the tariffs is not in fact, isn't tomorrow the big announcement for the tariff, the additional tariffs?
It's
Tomorrow
either
is
tomorrow or
announced
Tuesday. No, it's I
April
believe it's
2nd.
the second. Second.
April
So that
2nd,
would be
tomorrow. Yeah.
that would be Tuesday. What's tomorrow?
Yeah.
Today's the
Tomorrow is
31st.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah, today's the 31st though. April 1st is tomorrow.
No, today is April 1st.
Are we sure?
Is it?
No,
Okay.
it's
Tomorrow is
March
April 1st.
31st.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first quarter ends today.
Oh, okay. So my bad. I mentioned that it's I thought we were April 1st. It's tomorrow. I'm
First
looking
quarter
one
ended.
ahead. Okay.
Yeah, first quarter ended at 5 p.m. today.
Okay. My apologies. In the beginning of this video, I said, "Oh, we're April 1st, quarter's over," but it's
April Fools.
4:30, pretty
Early.
much the same thing. So
Early April Fools.
yeah. Send me a message and I'll for the mistake, and I'll send you a $5 Starbucks card.
There you
So
go.
no problem. So going back, the tariffs will make an impact. So let's talk about what do you, based on the statistics, do you see interest rate dropping? And what's your opinion on the tariffs on the housing
Well,
market specifically?
I mean, I think in a way, with the, like you mentioned, the Canadian sellers, I mean, I think in a way for those people that are, they get upset and they want to move back to Canada, or maybe they have a second home here in the US and, vacation home or Airbnb rental, what have you. Some uh, in some ways it's helping the real estate market in the sense of inventory. As far as rates is concerned, I think the big thing with the rates is it's going to have to do with the stock market. The stock
Okay.
market, inflation, everything is going to be dependent on the rates. I think they should lower the rates but I'm not an expert. I'm not a financial expert per se. That's just my opinion, right? So
Hmm.
it's not a forecast by any means, but I believe the rates should come down a little bit. I think that would help things. But I just rates coming down, I the real estate market will continue to boom, in my
Right,
opinion.
right, right.
So
I think earlier when we read the report, remember Yoon, Charles Yoon or Lawrence Yoon mentioned that it'll come down to 6% by the end of 2025. Let me
yeah.
read it again. Just like a year ago, market data indicates about 2 or 3 rate cuts in the coming months, and mortgage rates could hit 6% by the end of 2025, Yoon said. Do you see them coming down? And if it does, and I hope it does for the buyers, what impact will it have on home prices in the long run?
I think that once I think 6% will be good if we can get it down to 6%. Of course, that would be a good rate. I think that what will happen is eventually, as the rates come down, the more buyers we have, because there's buyers right now that, we're at 6.56, I think you said. So,
Hmm.
they might
Yeah,
say, well, you know what, the lender might say your ratios are a little high. So if we could get you down to 6%, how many people out there could qualify at 6% versus 6.5, right?
correct,
Um,
right.
and and people might say, well, then you could buy the rate down, but it's expensive to buy the rate. You need money to do that. So how many thousands or millions of people out there are waiting for 6%, right? So at that point, I couldn't tell you really, because studies show that
Hmm.
when interest rates come down, as a buyer, I have more buying power because now the
Right,
rates come down. There's more buyers out there, meaning traditionally there's more buyers for one home. So
right.
now I have a little more negotiating power. But I don't, it's going to be very interesting by the end of the year. I think first quarter of 2026.
Hmm.
I think if the rates can come down to 6%, I think the values will kind of stabilize a little bit, and they
Right,
may end up dipping. Yeah, they may end up dipping because we're going to see. But again, it's all going to depend on that headline, because we may see, maybe in Orange County, instead of 1.4 million, it'll be 1.28 or 1.3.
right,
That's going to be a drop, but it's not like the market's crashing, right? So it's really going to depend on that. But I think they
right,
will stabilize a little bit. It'll
right,
deflate.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's another angle to it. I hope it comes down, for people who want to refinance. In fact, it's funny. I just referred a client. Somebody called me, a friend of a friend called me and say, Mike, help these people out. They just refinanced in January. This is an elderly couple, didn't know what the heck was going on. The lender told them that the rates is going to start at 7% and it's going to go drop. But they just called me over the weekend, panic. You know what the rate is right now? It jumped to in 3 months. It went from 7 to 10%.
Wow.
And this is an elderly couple, barely make enough money to refi. So I'm having my lender's talking to them. He was going to call them after 10%. Ridiculous. So somebody's taking advantage. These lenders were toxic lender. And she told me that my lender, the previous lender, took advantage of them. They told them it's not going to be over 7%. In fact, it's going to drop to 5.5%. In fact, it went up to 10%. So
Wow.
anyway, so talk the other impact that might have on the affordability of the home buyers, which may affect the number of home sales and the price, is going back to tariffs. What's happening with tariffs? In fact, I just read a report as I was coming home today. I just read a report just 20 minutes before I came home for this live show in my office. It was about auto sales. Do you know what has happened in auto sales in the last? It has
Oh
gone up
yeah.
1%. A
Yeah.
lot of people are buying auto sales right now because in a week or so, the auto sales price are going up 25%. A direct impact of tariffs. So tariff is having a significant impact. Look at what it's doing to the
Of
auto
course.
industry. It's changing the whole scene.
Yep.
But the other thing I read about is what tariffs has done and will do is several things. Number one, everything's costing high, right? Two by fours, nails, hammers, lumbers, everything's costing higher. So if I'm a home
Right.
buyer and wanted to buy a house and I want to fix it up, I don't have money to fix it up because my cost went up. My egg prices went up, my gas price went up, my utilities
Yep.
went up. So all of a sudden, if I'm thinking of buying a $450,000 house in Victorville, I may not be able to buy a 450 and may have to settle for a $400,000 house because everything else has gone up. My car that I
Right.
was going to buy after I buy my house, because my car is almost dead, I have to go to work. The house that was going to cost me 30 grand will cost me now what, 36,000 or whatever, 25% more. So the tariff is having a major impact. And if there's one thing that's going to really impact the housing market, it's the tariffs and its
Yeah.
repercussions. It's
Yeah, because
huge.
you're yeah, because cost of living is going to go up, like you said with the vehicles. If I buy a, I don't know, a Yukon or a Suburban or something big, and where before, maybe in 2018 my payments were $700. Now my payments are $1,200. So that's going
Right.
to impact. Yeah, so the tariffs could have a negative impact, and that's what I mean. That's why this time that we're in is so very interesting, with mortgages and pricing of homes and interest rates going down. And who knows? Maybe at the end of the year, when prices of the or excuse me, when the interest rates go down to 6%, maybe instead of deflating, maybe the values will stay the same.
Right.
Anything goes. I think at this point.
Right. Right. At the same time, the other thing I wrote down is that builder slowdowns and labor shortages. So two things going to happen. One, as you know, the builders have not been able to keep up with the housing demand for the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Yep.
Now, with building costs so high, they're going to slow down. But guess what else is going to add to the slowdown? Because of the mass deportations, and I'll give you an example, there's a labor shortage. So, what happens to a contractor, to a developer, or to a homeowner who buys a house and has to fix it up? Two things happen. Number one, your cost of goods go up 25%, your labor costs go up. So the thing that was going to cost me $1,000 is now costing me $1,500,
Right.
right? So why is there a labor shortage? Well, if you look at, let's go back to Florida, the impact of tariff and the impact of mass deportation. There was a report I saw just over the weekend in Miami. Right now, we're going through a spring break, right? We went through
Yep.
spring break. We're still going through a spring break, different cities, different colleges. Miami is a boom town for spring break, right?
Oh
They
yeah.
showed a picture in Miami of restaurants and shops empty.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's
I'm not taking any sides. I'm just saying there's a direct impact of labor and tariffs on the housing market.
right.
Because if I'm
Exactly.
a waiter, right, thinking of buying a house, all of a sudden in 2 weeks I made less money because my restaurant owner said, Mike, there's not enough business, go home earlier. I just lost some income and some tips.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
So not getting political, but little things are making a big impact. I hope it does not, but
Right.
so let's go back to timelines. Let's go back, um, and this will be our last topic. So going back and say, if I'm a seller and it's springtime,
Hmm.
John, I'm sure you have some sellers who said, I'll list my home in April, May, June is a peak time.
Hmm.
What are some of the things you would tell the sellers to do to prepare to sell the homes? A couple of things I wrote down, and we'll talk about it, is prepping matters, right? Your landscaping, your paint, your kitchen refreshing. Let's talk about a couple of things, and we've been kind of negative. Give them some good pointers that if you
Hmm.
are selling, what are some of the things you can do to get maximum price so the buyers like it and they pay the price that you want as long as it's market price.
Yeah. I mean, in addition to the basics, professional photography, and all that, and all the things I talked about earlier. Yeah, curb appeal is definitely going to be your number one. If there's two homes that are being sold next to each other, and I'm a buyer, and I see one with really nice curb appeal, nice landscaping, and then I see another one with halfway dead grass with weeds growing, and they're both inside, they look really good. I'm going to go to the one that's a little more landscaped, obviously, first. So yeah, curb appeal is definitely a must, especially with the rates the way they are and where the market is. The other thing is, which people, you mentioned paint, but more so than just interior, which is important, is your eaves and your wood trim outside the house.
Mm,
If you've been there for 15 years and your wood trim is peeling, take the time, spend the money. It's those are the funds that should be directed to what will increase your value, which is your eaves and your boards underneath, your fascia boards. Those should be painted. Wood shutters, if your windows have wood shutters, I definitely would refresh those. Curb appeal, and then
Mm-hmm.
inside too, of course. Inside, if you, I as a seller, I wouldn't be opposed to maybe staging a couple rooms if I have older furniture. you know, Especially for $1 million homes. That's something that would be good too.
Right.
Is making sure the interior looks nice. So I would not redo my entire kitchen and spend 30 grand on a whole kitchen to just get 10,000 back. I would not do that,
Right.
but I would freshen up absolutely, and then price
Absolutely.
accordingly. So
Of
yeah,
course. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So staging, does it work if you do staging one or two rooms, or is it better to stage the whole house? I
Well,
mean,
if you're occupying the home, you could stage one or two rooms. Like, let's say you're not using your dining room because you're selling, right? And your furniture is older. Maybe you
okay,
stage it with furniture in your
the
dining room.
current, right. Okay. Right.
That's what I mean. Yeah. If you're not living there, then yeah, staging the whole house would make sense. Yes,
Okay. So if you're
absolutely.
staying there, use some of the things like your sofa if it's good, or your beds or your dining table.
I would.
And if
Yeah.
the, yeah, use it. But if some of the rooms are empty, or some of them are really old fashioned, old furniture, or old lamps, change
Yeah,
those
it,
and
it
turn it.
doesn't. Yeah, because it,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt to stage, because
Right.
then at that point you're staging and you have modern furniture, and
Right.
people walk in and maybe you have nice flooring, nice paint on your walls, and
Right.
that'll look nice. So,
Right, right. So now the other catch is, let's say that you have a house that you stage and you had a good
uh,
agent and said, do this eaves painting and and they did all that. But they say, hey, John, I want to sell my house. I want to move from Victorville because I'm going to Texas because my mom is there. Are contingent offers still good when it comes to buyers out of state and when it comes to brand new homes? Because some of the brand new homes don't take contingent. But I don't, if I'm a seller, I don't want to buy another house if I don't have one in escrow. So it's a catch 22.
um, Contingent homes are still good if you plan it right. I always believe that if any client I've had in the past that's done a relocation, you have to plan the relocation properly. You
Okay.
can't just list your house and not know where you want to go. Even if you say, I know I want to go to Texas, since you brought up out of state.
Right.
Well, I want to go to Texas. Okay, but where? I don't know. Then you shouldn't list your house yet. Let's talk about what city you want to go to. Let's get an agent out in that city. With my agency, just like I'm sure with yours, it's nationwide. You can find
Right.
agents anywhere. We work on referrals, so we find agents in other states. Once we find that agent and we nail down two things: what city and what you qualify for. That's
Hmm.
important.
Right.
Once you know those two things, then we list the home. Then you start looking at homes virtually, and then you start planning that. So by the time we get offers here, you're already putting offers out there, and you can kind of move to. Now, does it always work out perfectly? No.
No.
People cancel. People don't lose their jobs, like you talked about. So life events do happen, but if you have a plan in place, there's about an eight for me, about 87, 89% of the time it works. So
Right.
minus those few,
Right.
details.
Right.
So
And I want to mention that there's two kinds of contingencies. One is like you said, hey, I'll sell my house, or you can go to Texas and write an offer and tell the builder or the seller, you know what, my house is for sale.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a contingent. Or you can go to the builder or somebody, let's say Frisco, and say, you know what, I
yeah,
like your house. I flew out 2 weeks ago. I flew out again. I want to buy your house. Here's an offer. Guess what? Our house is already in escrow and we're closing April 15th. Now
yeah,
that's a different kind of contingency compared to, oh,
exactly.
my house is in the market, because that doesn't mean anything, because what if it doesn't sell? But if it's already in escrow, then you have a better chance of buying something if you're thinking about doing that, right? So it's best to put it in escrow and then buy some time for you to move and time and all that.
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, right? If this was 2021, I would say yes, absolutely, because at that time,
Yeah.
whatever, anything goes. But I think right now, yes, you can definitely do that. Buy your time, but because of all the, we're vulnerable right now as a society. And so, with all the things that are happening with jobs and, like you said, deportations and tariffs and all these things that are happening all at once, we have to be very careful about doing that, because say you put a $25,000 down payment on a new build in Texas, okay, and you say I'm closing in 2 weeks on the 15th. I'm already in escrow. I'm great. Now this buyer lost his job. Now you have to see if the builder can hold your property that you're trying to buy while you scramble to get somebody else in escrow. And a lot of times, in most cases, I'd say probably 10 out of 10, your deposits with builders are non-refundable. So, yes, can it happen? Absolutely. I have one right now. They're moving from here to San Diego because he got a
Hmm.
job down there. And they decided to rent for now until we figure out where they want to go. And again, we're planning where they want to go, and then we're going to go ahead and help them purchase a home because the prices in San Diego are high. So
Right.
they have
Oh
to
yeah.
save a little bit more and put a little work into it. But once that time comes, and I help someone buy a new construction,
Mm.
so it happens. Those things do happen, and then, again, it's all about planning for sure. But you
Right.
definitely have to vet that buyer. So
Right.
on
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
this side,
Of
so
course. Well, you know what, your realtor, if you're a buyer, if a buyer doesn't have an approval letter, does not show me proof of funds, quote, he's not going to come in my car, although they follow us these days. Before we used to take them in our car, but now they follow us.
that's
But you're not coming in my car if you have not talked to a lender, and if you don't show me that, hey, you're going to put 20% down on $1 million house, show me the $200,000. He's
right.
not sitting in my car, or they're not sitting in my car. So, but yeah, the buyers have to
Yeah.
be well prepared. But there is an option for the sellers, because I'm not going to sell my house and go somewhere and stay in a hotel or apartment for 2 or 3 months and find something. I want to move from here, move into
Into
another,
my next house.
do
Yeah.
one transition, one moving,
Mhm.
because then I have storage costs and this cost, and hey, I'm getting old. I don't have time to do all that.
Well, and yeah, and moving is not cheap anymore.
Exactly.
It's three to
Everything.
five thousand dollars just to move to the same city. So much less moving out
Oh
of
my
state.
God, forget that.
You
Yeah.
know.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. So here's, if you've been watching, I hope you got some information on it. If you're watching a recording, if you have any questions, let us know. But I want to conclude by, if you're selling, what are the action steps and what we talked about? Number one, what's the rest of 2025 looks like, right? Rates are expected to stay at 6.5 or less. Hopefully they'll drop.
mhm.
There are going to be moderate price gains. Of course, it depends on where you are. Some areas like Florida, home prices are dropping. A lot of inventory there, but Orange County, Victorville seems like prices are going up. So market
Right.
is hyper local, and then buyer demand is returning and will go up as the rates go down. So that's good. Now, if you're a homeowner, here's what we talked about and what you should be thinking about planning. If you're thinking about selling and moving in the next few months or whatever, get a hold of your local realtor. If you're in out of state and if you need a local realtor, let us know. We have a referral network. We'll be glad to help
Mhm.
you find a local realtor. But what you need to do is get local comparatives, find out what's happening in your market the second quarter, not what happened in December, but what happened in the first quarter, because market is changing. And then what's expected to happen in the second quarter. Talk to a great agent, and then start preparing to sell your home or moving 60 to 90 days before. Like John
Exactly.
mentioned, hey, if you're going to move and you have a clutter, start cleaning up that yard, start trimming those trees. If your trims need painting, start painting them, start getting rid of stuff, decluttering, staging. That takes time. So give yourself 2 3 months to sell, and then once you put it in the market, give yourself another 30 to 40 days to sell. And then, so you're looking at 4 5 months process, and the market could change by then, and hopefully it's not
Yeah.
going to change that much. But so with those thoughts, I mean, if you are thinking about selling, what's stopping you from selling and moving? Let us know if you're watching this live or in comments. With that, John, any last comments?
No, I think, I think, we've pretty much covered everything. I mean, the only thing I would like to say is don't be afraid to purchase right now. Right now, it's a good time because even though the rates are 6.5 and we have this notion, you had the article you just had up talked about 2020 or 2021 with the rates being at 3% and then going up to 8%, and then coming back down a little bit. They talked about 8% being the highest it's been in 20 years, but let's not forget where we were in the 80s. We went up to 20% in the 80s. And
Wow.
then people purchased and then they refinanced. So that's the thing, you purchase a home, you get it at 6.5, get into the home that you want, the home that you love before you lose it. And then you can always refinance. You can always do that at a later time because the rates it will inevitably drop. I don't think they're going to go to 3%. That's my opinion. But even if they go to 5, 4.5, that can happen on a refi. So that's what I would say. But no, I would say, I know you told me I could do this earlier when we first talked, but if you, have any questions for me, I always put up advice for sellers on my Instagram and other pages, but it's John the Realtor. You'll see the face on the Instagram. It's John the Realtor with the 3 in the Realtor name, R3A
So I'm
LTOR.
putting it in the
So
comments. John the Realtor.
yeah, so it's Instagram is John the Realtor, and then on Realtor, the E is a 3.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
On
John
the
the
D,
Realtor
on
on
the
there.
TE, or on the RE?
RE, so John the, and then R3, and then that's how I spelled Realtor on that. Yeah.
Got it. I put it in there, but they'll
Yep.
find you. Type in John the
Yep.
Realtor, big
I see it.
guy.
Yep.
You'll see him.
You'll see
He's
it. Yeah.
in the valley. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I always love interacting with people, and I always post,
Right.
informational stuff about sellers and buyers and what to do, what not to do. So, yeah.
Right. And I have put John's information in my description. So if you go to this video on my YouTube channel, Home Service Central, if you look on the description, it says special guest, John the Realtor, KW Realty, and his email is on there. So feel free to contact him, get that Instagram. I'll connect. I
Yeah.
think I'm already connected, but I'll connect. I don't go too much on Instagram because I'm so much on YouTube. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm on Instagram and I need to go
okay.
back to YouTube.
Hey, whatever works. Yeah. I used to be in
Cool.
Facebook, but I get so much spam on Facebook, and, all the people contact me from Timbuktu. So I kind of stopped
That's
going
right.
on there.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. John, thank you so much. I'll call you again if it's okay with you. If you have any
Absolutely. Anytime.
comments, any suggestions, please make them. And see you next Monday, 4:30. Thank you.
Take care.